All right. Hello, beautiful beings, and welcome to the show. I'm Lane Smith Brown, and this is episode number 8 of the Unleash Your Life podcast. And today we're going to discuss how we can fall into the habit of people pleasing. This will not be the last time we speak of this behavior, but I know it will be a good jumping off point for some good discussions going forward. This is the Unleash Your Life podcast, where you're going to learn what your power leaks are, and more importantly, how to plug them. I'm your host, Lane Smith Brown. I'm a best-selling author and the founder and coach over at lanesmithbrown.com. And over the last 20 years, I've been guiding people back to their truest selves. You see, most of us are caught in our stories, so we stay trapped. I call those stories power leaks. And when we understand how those power leaks are playing out in our life, we can make a choice to step back into our power. If you're interested in learning more, you can pop over to lanesmithbrown.com. But for now, kick back with a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, or a bag of Doritos, and let's talk about getting what's in the way out of the way through the lens of simple, practical, and easy to understand tools and insights that will make a powerful impact on your life starting today. I trust you'll stick around because I'd certainly love the company. All right, here we are back on the show. I am so glad you've decided to come here today. I'm going to call this the power leak of settling this week. It's when we unconsciously fall into the roles based on other people's needs instead of our desires or our calling. Recognizing where we settle can be difficult because it may not always register as settling. It may be disguised under the feeling of, well, this is just the way it is. But is it? By the end of this show, you're going to have some really good questions to ask yourself. And for some of you, this may really be difficult to hear, and it may just bend your mind a little bit. Well, at least I hope it does, because there's nothing wrong with feeling a bit unsettled, because that's when the growth happens. So let's dig in a little. But let me give you some context first. Despite what our intentions may have been upon arrival, most of us try on a variety of things before we settle down. Personally, I've had about 15 different careers, and my mate Callie has had that as well. I love the limitlessness of trying new things. Sometimes my conclusion is I'll never do that again. And sometimes my conclusion is I would do this even if I never made a dime. Some things I chose deliberately, and some just fell into my lap into like kind of an almost accidental way. Whatever we try, there's always something we can learn from the experience, and that can redeem nearly everything we do and try while we're in the learning process. So no regrets, just knowledge and the desire to learn. I want you to have that in your mind as we go forward, and if you start to recognize things about yourself. Being aware of what we're doing and why we're doing it is helpful information as we begin to break down some of the reasons we find ourselves in situations that don't quite feel like we were there of our own making. The truth is, many of us make choices by not making choices. We just quietly acquiesce to the wishes of others. But for most of us, that all happened without us even being awake. For some, it was simply our birth order, and for some, it came out of necessity to cope or deal with what was right in front of us. Now, bear with me here. I'm hoping this translates over the airwaves, but as I worked through my own stuff, it helped me to separate all of my roles into garments or capes I put on each morning. For some reason, that picture was helpful in allowing me to choose or not choose to put a specific garment or role on the basis of whether it fit or not, made me feel beautiful or not, or, of course, made my butt look just the perfect size or not. Here's what I mean. You know how the youngest child often wears the rebel or the irresistible one? Or the irresponsible one, I meant. The middle one may put on the role of caregiver or mediator. And the oldest perhaps dresses as the responsible one or the example. Fathers sometimes put on disciplinarian, and mothers can often wear the nurturer or the exact opposite, depending on your experience. Perhaps you're the artist who wears always following flights of fancy, or your feet are never on the ground. Or you're the linear one who chooses between always knows where you're going next, or always has a plan, or doesn't want to step off the path because people are counting on you. Maybe you're the sensitive one and everyone has to walk on eggshells around you. Or how about being the sick one that everyone talks about? Too bad about Sue. She just can't catch a break. Perhaps you're the poor one, and no matter how hard you try, you always end up in the same financial mess. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Or you could be the shy one or the insecure one that wears, I'll just sit here and try not to be noticed. Perhaps you're the successful one that always takes care of everyone else. Or you're perceived to be full of yourself or forgetful of your roots, something that kind of gives you a role to play in your home, in your family, or in your relationships. Maybe you're the mother who must sacrifice herself for the betterment of her kids, the hero who goes to a job you hate because it's the responsible thing to do, or the faithful one who stays in a relationship long after it served either of you in any positive way. Or hey, maybe you're from a long line of people who didn't make much of themselves. So why should you be any different? There's a lot of people walking around in that role. Are you the pretty one that no one knows you're brilliant? Or are you the one who dates everyone who gives you the time of day, but always ends up alone? Is your role the one who holds yourself back and doesn't let anyone in? Maybe you're the one who starts everything and never finishes anything. Or here's a good one, the one who volunteers for everything. You are the part of the valiant 20% who does 80% of it all and talk about it all the time. You may be the rescuer, and all you want to wear is taking care of myself for once. But you dutifully put on, how can I serve you best every morning? Are you the quiet one who always bites your tongue? Or the bullied one who everyone is keeping down? The drama queen who walks around and then notice me, notice me, notice me. What about the lazy one or the stupid one or the reckless one or the alcoholic one or the drug abusing one or the emotional one or the overeater one or the impulsive one? Now, what came first? Other people's opinions of you or your opinion of you? Well, there's no way to separate the two, really. However, when you become aware of the roles you are wearing, you have an enormous amount of power to decide where you go from here. Often, we get so caught up in what other people think, we wear a role for them. Inside, there is a resentment that people don't see you as something more. Or there's a quiet acquiescence, a surrendering that this is all I get. This is my duty and obligation. Well, the truth of the matter is nothing is set in stone. And if the role you've been wearing no longer fits, then take it off and find something more appropriate to put on. Maya Angelou is attributed to saying, people treat you the way you teach them to treat you. Now, that may be a bitter pill to swallow when you're wearing your I am not in a position of choice outfit, but that too is just another role. What about being the one with choices? What about being the one who says, this is not what I want something more? So how do you begin? Well, how about with a question like, why am I buying into this? Or who am I really? What we all desire is a sense of who we are, something that resonates deeply within us. From that place, we can enter into all situations from the knowledge of this is who I am now, instead of the role we've grown accustomed to wearing. Are you with me? Is this making you see things you're doing but don't actually remember choosing to do? We all do it. It may be in every area of our life or just a couple of places. I've seen powerhouses in business situations turn into unrecognizable beings when amongst their family. It just depends on what we've chosen to work through. Look, here's some examples from my own experience. Maybe this will help you see even more clearly. I was the youngest of 4. But we were placed very far apart. My sister, the one just above me, is 6 years older than me. And the next sister was 12 years older than me. And then my brother was 2 years above her. I was 30 years old before I realized that I felt like I was still 16 when I was around my family. I didn't see myself as a grown-up, and neither did they. I had a career and I owned my own home, but stepped into the role of the youngest child whenever I stepped over my parents' threshold. No one expected me to contribute, and I didn't. We all played into it. My brother, being the oldest, got caught in the doing the right thing. So he made decisions not to make himself happy or satisfied, but to do what was expected. And it didn't end well. There's only my sister and I now, but we've had to make a concerted effort at allowing each other to be grown-ass women in front of each other on equal footing. And it's working. But it didn't happen by accident. We both made a decision to reinvent our relationships and let go of those old roles. Now, it's not just in familiar roles. Some people have low self-esteem and carry that energy wherever they go, and it affects how people see them, what kinds of jobs they get offered, and what kind of relationships they have. When that self-esteem gets bolstered and a perspective changes, all of those areas can be completely transformed. But it takes a decision from the individual to let go of the old roles and embrace others. There are lots of rules our society, culture, or family tell us we should conform to, like getting married, having to change our names. My God, there's still women walking down the aisle being handed off from father to husband like chattel. And nobody thinks about the origin or context of this arcane idea. It was to mark the passing of property from one man to the next. And there are still little girls dreaming of this rite of passage that is steeped in the tradition of them giving themselves away. And then parenthood. It's the next logical step in duty, isn't it? It's what we should want. And if we don't want it, well, that's just wrong. I have friends who got married at 18 and decided they didn't want to have kids right from the get-go. She said if she had told her parents she had murdered someone, it would have gone over better. And she wasn't joking. They were conditioned that having kids really wasn't an option. It was just the normal course of events. Thankfully, my friends knew they wanted something different. And 30 years later, they are amazing together and are still mad for each other. I've had friends choose careers based on parents' expectations or persuasions, but no personal desire. And then there's things like the oldest daughter being the one to take care of aging parents, or in my aunt's case, the daughter that didn't get married fell into that role because she had nothing else to do with her life. Wow. I'm sure you can see for yourself and others in your life how everyone has taken on an unintentional role of some kind. Some of those roles, once accepted, are not easily undone. But what do you do if you want to take a different route and a different kind of role? The place to begin is taking the time to realize where you are not playing to your highest intention and making a decision to listen, to commit to redesigning yourself over time or in one big, beautiful leap so that you are more fully aligned with your truth. Are you telling yourself who you are, or are you letting others tell you who they need you to be? When you're feeling trapped by circumstances and expectations, it can feel daunting to upset the proverbial apple cart. What will people think? What will people do? How will other people cope? Okay, take a deep breath and say, the most important thing for me in this moment is what I think of me. Do you mind if I repeat that? The most important thing for me in this moment is what I think of me. You'd likely have no problem saying that to a kid who's buying into peer pressure or a friend that is overwhelmed under the weight of expectations. Maybe it's time to say the same thing to yourself. Truth is, people believe you when you tell them who you are. So who will you be? For starters, you are connected to a divine intuition, and you're now aware of it, which cannot be said for most of the world's population. That alone says you are remarkable and insightful. You're drawn to this kind of information that will help you discover what you're capable of, which says you are already tuning yourself to a greater understanding of why you're here. And so you have a choice to make. Do you want to continue playing the same tired, unhappy role, or do you want to be who you are? When we speak our own truth, it inspires others to do the same. And who knows what chain of events will be set in motion when you begin to fully understand what Marianne Williams so perfectly articulated in this now very famous quote. Here it is. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God or divine intuition. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just for some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Holy cow. The first time I read that, I cried. Actually, I probably cried for the first 10 times that I read it. It's rather moving, don't you think? Can you feel the promise contained in those words? Do you want to be liberated from what is holding you back? It's time to take off the ill-fitting role you've been wearing and put on something that feels more like you. Are you aware of the roles you wear? If you're like most people, it's probably several roles. Do you know why you're wearing them? Which are the ones that you truly love? And which are the ones that used to fit but no longer do? Are there roles you allow yourself to wear for other people? Are there roles you know you want to stop wearing? Are there other roles you would like to try on? Do you ever deliberately turn down how brilliant and beautiful and talented you are? If so, where and when specifically do you do this? Are there places where you really let yourself shine? Oh, I hope so. When exactly do you do this? And how good does that feel? Did you listen to podcast 6 where I talked about the odds of you, like you specifically being born, were rather astronomically small? Now, with no amount of hyperbole, it took a freaking miracle for the specific egg and the specific sperm that made you, you. It was a freaking miracle. There's no other way to look at it. And yet, you're here despite those tremendous odds. So out of this miracle, are you living the life you want? Are you living the life you came to live? Only you can answer it. But I've got a real simple test to show you if you are, or if you're not. And you can do it in private and no one needs to see. Are you up for it? Here we go. I want you to find a mirror. And when you are confident that no one can see or hear you, I want you to look right into your eyes and say, you are beautiful. You are perfect just as you are. I love you. As you're saying those words, watch the expression on your face. Is it difficult seeing yourself say those words? Observe how you're feeling. Do you believe it? Are you uncomfortable or self-conscious? Here it is again. Look into your eyes and say, you are beautiful. You are perfect just as you are. I love you. When you are standing in your power and purpose, you will feel so in love with yourself that you may just catch yourself winking at your reflection every time you see it. You see, you can't lie to yourself, especially when you look directly in your eyes. And if it's uncomfortable, then let's work through this stuff. Let's get you standing in your power. Let's get you choosing the roles you want to wear. I have yet to meet anyone who could do this exercise the very first time without feeling a little bit odd and uncomfortable. Maybe you're the exception. It brings up tons of stuff for most people. But just because you're uncomfortable doesn't mean the statements aren't true. You are beautiful. You are perfect, just as you are. And you are worth loving. When you know these things are true of you, you can let go of the roles and expectations that no longer serve you. Some may take a little longer to move through, but you can move through them. So just in case you didn't fully get that, your job on this journey is to let go of the roles and duties that you did not choose and do not want. If this is scary and daunting, there's more help coming, so don't feel distressed. For now, just inventory your roles and decide, what do I want to keep? What would I keep if I could modify? And what would that look like? And which ones do I just need to kick to the curb right now? I don't need to be talked into this. I just know I do not want to do this anymore. Okay? So that's a whole bunch of questions this time, but I hope you're going to have some fun learning about yourself through this whole process. All right, so before I leave you, I just want to remind you again of the mirror routine. Try it until it's easy. Trust me, this is worth it. So you're looking in the mirror and you're saying to yourself, you are beautiful. You are perfect and I love you. Okay? If you keep doing this until it becomes easy, your life is going to change in some pretty dramatic ways. So just trust me. If this is the only thing you do while we work together, you're going to make strides in all kinds of areas. I think this would be an amazing, intentionally chosen belief for you. Just so you know, these types of exercises actually open up new neural pathways. You're actually doing really big work here. So the sooner you recognize and believe in your own brilliance, the closer you can get to being who you came to be. You matter. You matter as much as anyone or anything else. This has nothing to do with your cultural background, your position in society, where you live, or what you do. It has nothing to do with your family values or your religious views. You are divine. We are all divine. You matter a great deal, and it is time to allow yourself to act accordingly. Remember, you've come here for a reason. You came with intention. Where would you like to go with that knowledge? Now, you know I'm a fan of the exercise. I would recommend you do it 2 or 3 times a day until it becomes comfortable. It's going to be worth it. You are divine. You are magical, mystical, and a part of all that is. You have within you all the answers to all the questions you could ever ask. And you can set yourself on a course that will lead to anything and everything you've ever wanted for yourself. And it will begin as soon as you understand the stuff of which you are made. No more ill-fitting roles, no more settling, no more drifting. Well, there was a lot here to grasp, I think, and no harm in listening to that again, I suppose. Let's just meet back here next time and go a little deeper and a little farther. Oh, my sisters, I am excited to see where all of this takes us. I'm up for the ride. How about you? That's it for me. See you next time. Well, I hope this show rocked your world a little bit. If you're ready to take this learning to a whole new level, pop over to lanesmithbrown.com and sign up for our weekly Wild Wonderings email and check out the coaching options as well. Oh, and if you haven't already, subscribe to this podcast, will you? It's how we get these tools into the world and change the world for the better. Ta for now.